Welcome back to another episode of Heart Talks. In this episode, I'm speaking with Sek Sheng, aka Dr. Fu, and his journey into spirituality, healing music, and sound bath. This is going to be a long one again because we're starting all the way back when Dr. Fu was still in school, with his roots firmly entrenched in trance music, and how a chance encounter at a silent retreat at Bali changed his worldview. After the interview segment, Dr. Fu is actually going to run through some of the instruments for his healing music, and then after the introduction, he's actually going to do a live performance for us. Unfortunately, the recording on Ableton did not go through, so we had to rely on the ECM M1 mic on my Sony camera. Might not be the best quality, but I think it sends how a healing music session will actually be like. Without further ado, let's roll the footage. Hey, Sek Sheng.
Hey,
How are you, man?
Good.
I think the last time we really met up and did anything was way back when we were doing the trance scene.
Yeah.
And yeah, now you're synonymously known as Dr. Fu. So like, what have you been doing, man, with regards to music and stuff? Because today's topic is about spirituality and sound baths and healing music, right?
Yeah.
So maybe just pick off from where we last met, which is trance.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot to update, and I think very apt that you are interviewing me. I think first time I'm probably sharing in depth in this format, and I think you're the perfect person to recap this journey, because I think you were the one who started my DJing journey.
Oh, is it?
In Singapore? Because I think you were the person who taught me to mix on the decks in 2009, 2010, around that period. Yeah. And so you are one of the few people who really saw my the early Dr. Fu, and then I will talk about where Dr. Fu is now in a more meaningful sense in this, doctor aspect, right? So obviously I started DJing when I came from Australia to Singapore, about 2011, 2012, started DJing. If you ask me back then whether I would envision myself being where I am today, no. So it's quite a transformation along the way. So for those who knew me back then, I was very much into trance, house, techno, progressive. It's my tagline: go deep, go dark, go progressive.
Yeah, totally remember that line.
That was my tagline, my musical direction. And then basically I was DJing a lot from 2011 to 2015 in Singapore. 2011 started in Melbourne, then 2012 back in Singapore. It is a huge part of me, electronic music, trance, the feeling of trance, starting out as a raver and then into the DJ. Something happened in end of 2014, 2015, which I can't really rationalize. Like when it hit me. So that's when I started to change my lifestyle. Then my DJing in the nightlife scene started to reduce. So I can talk a bit of what changes came into me during that period. Because music is my language, it's my medium of communication and my main passion. That was true, is true, and will always be true. So my lifestyle and my intentions will determine what kind of music I play and how I want to use the music for. So when my lifestyle changed in 2015, that's when Dr. Fu's music changed as well. So prior to 2015, speaking to you, Alvin, I used to drink a lot. I party a lot.
Yeah, we sure did.
Yeah. I think my liver increased twice because of you. Those were great times in the underground. Like DJing and going for gigs, John SQ, Zerka, Miniature Sound, Zook. Those days, those were like, it's like life starts at 12 a.m. Right. Then moving forward to 2015 onwards and up to now, somehow, I don't know, it kind of coincided with me quitting my first job in Singapore. I was feeling burnt out. I was starting to question,
what are you doing?
What am I doing? What's my purpose? My career, my purpose. And then musically as well. So I was very active in Trance Republic, getting quite a few gigs here and there. Not my full-time thing, but part-time on weekends.
I joined you guys for some of the sessions as well.
Yeah. But of course, we started as lame BPM first.
Yeah.
That's where me, you, and Martin, we had this little collective. It was quite fun, experimental. We did what we want as a podcast.
And we did some gigs
as well. And then from there, I moved into Trance Republic, where they had gigs in bars, clubs, and all that. Very passionate. But I reached a point in end of 2014, like I said, questioning my career purpose. Musically, I was also reaching a burnout point where, I don't know, I felt that I felt there was a lot of politics in the scene. I was starting to feel the strain of the politics in the scene.
As in, like the local scene, Trance Republic, or?
Back then, I thought it was just trance, but actually, this applies to probably across the entertainment music scene, where there were like politics at play in terms of getting gigs, in terms of like what time slot you play and all that, and also the venues that we were playing at. People were expecting me to be the unicorn slayer. So just to educate people who are not familiar with the term, that comes from my favorite DJ Marcus Schultz back then. He was famous for this term called the unicorn slaying trance. So like very aggressive, dark driving type of trance, progressive trance, tech trance. So people were expecting me to play that kind of quite aggressive, dark stuff. And I always take the decks around 1 a.m. just before the peak 140 BPM stuff. So I was always shoehorned into that. Then
you felt very pigeonholed.
But also emotionally to be in that state. That state was a bit angrier, a bit rebellious, which kind of suits some parts of my psyche as well, because I started out being, I guess I've always been rebellious and anti-corporate, anti-system. So back then, playing out music was an avenue for me to also express some of these anger towards societal norms, right? So it reached a point where I just thought, musically, I'm more than that. Emotionally, I was starting to feel much more than just anger, moodiness, and rebellion.
So is that when you started to discover the spiritual side of you, and that's kind of led you to where you are now?
So basically, I call it seeking, something like that search, that quest for something, just something more, right? Or like what is it all about? Just taking that moment to just step away a bit. So it coincided with me quitting my first job. So I had time to start to travel a bit, to find myself a bit more. And then somehow I went to Bali for the first time I had not done any yoga before, but I remember I just Google Bali silent retreat. I just clicked on the first link that showed up.
You had no idea what it was. You just clicked it.
I just clicked it. I just intuitively felt that yoga sounded like something that would help me to understand myself better. I've not done any proper yoga up to that point. Maybe I just tried out one session way back, but I don't remember any of it. So
Okay.
I just thought it would be a good pause. And so I thought this was a starting point, right? So I went to this Bali silent retreat in the end of 2014. First time ever doing yoga, first time ever going for a silent retreat. That was quite a shake-up for my system. Basically, I went in there. It's a silent retreat. You surrender your devices. No talking to anybody within the premises. The lifestyle there was wake up at 6+ a.m., do meditation silently, do yoga. Then the food that was served was all organically grown. It was rice fields in Bali. After that, you had time to do your own journaling, reading, followed by more yoga classes. And then you could go out to walk around the rice fields if you wanted to. So I was doing that for about 4 or 5 days. Just doing that for 4 days alone, I started to feel very different. Like I felt for the first time quite energized and cleansed without caffeine or alcohol. So it was very new to me. Prior to that, I was drinking a lot, alcohol at night, a lot of coffee in a day.
Do you still do that? Are you totally off coffee and alcohol, or you still do?
So I love tea, so I still drink tea. But that experience shook me off coffee because I realized that I was very hyper when I drink coffee. Edgy. Even energy drinks as well. So I stopped coffee and energy drinks because I was getting the spike and then the crash.
Right, okay.
But it differs for different people. So coffee is still generally, in moderation, is considered a healthy drink. But for me, like it was causing a lot of the hyper feeling. And then coupled with alcohol back then at night. So alcohol, I still drink occasionally for the taste, like
Wine.
I want to appreciate alcohol for the taste now. So if I drink probably like 1 glass of wine
Okay.
nowadays, compared to back then where
We had like 6 beers or something, 6 pints of beer.
I think that was considered quite mild.
Yeah. And then we got the whole Super Lambo at the wine bar at the Ozu.
Lemon, what? Ice lemon was
Long Island tea.
Long Island tea.
Oh, that was so bad.
Long Island tea. And then it doesn't matter what alcohol, I just look at the percentage.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So basically I was drinking to get high. So that kind of that ceased because during the retreat I felt high, but a natural sense of high, which felt very sustainable. It's like compared to me when I was drinking alcohol, like you needed, after a while the high will
Fade.
and then you get a crash, you get hangover, and
Yeah.
so this feeling for the first time I felt, wow, okay, high for quite a while, natural, like last throughout the day. So okay, like
So that was your turning point to enter spirituality, is it?
so so the spiritual part, you could say that was a mix of wellness, health, and spiritual. So that was a starting point for me to seek further into wellness and spiritual practices, because like I just want to find out more, like what's the science behind it, I want to understand more of the yogic practices behind it. And through my pursuit of yogic knowledge, this led me to India, Bali, India. India is a huge part because I started to explore different parts of India and also different religions where this wisdom came from. So yoga is a blend of Buddhism and Hinduism. So that led me curious towards finding out more of these religions as well. So that's the spiritual part. So
Where did the music part come in? Was it during this period also?
So it's kind of intertwined, right? So yeah, this period as well. So but maybe I just also want to add on before I go into that.
Yeah.
So I mentioned, you asked whether this was the turning point.
Yeah, yeah.
On the surface, it looked like the turning point to me and to my social circles as well. Because suddenly after I came back from Bali in 2015, suddenly I don't
new person.
Suddenly I don't drink.
Yeah.
To you got shocked, right? Like suddenly
Yeah, I was like, whoa, this is
quite radical.
Totally new.
Yeah. Because suddenly it's like, on the surface, it felt quite abrupt. It's like before that, I was, still drinking.
Yeah.
Suddenly then stop, right? So it felt like that. But when I look back now, right, I think the seeds for this, whether you call it spirituality, seeking, or more conscious towards health and wellness, was planted in 2011. Actually, ironically, the year where I really started DJing and went clubbing a lot in Melbourne was the year that I picked up Buddhist meditation in Melbourne as well.
Right. So that's your first touch.
Yeah.
With
So
the spiritual side.
Because when I was in Melbourne, the place where I lived, right, there was a Buddhist center about 1 kilometer away. When I was just walking around my neighborhood, one day I saw this Buddhist center. They had a sign. They say every Tuesday free meditation class. And at that point in time, I was feeling quite stressed because it was my final year and I was writing a thesis. And the thesis was on electronic music.
I remember that one. I totally remember that one. I was like, damn, you're really doing this.
But because it was on electronic music, so I was putting my heart and soul into it. It was the hardest I ever studied or put in compared to my years of study in Singapore.
Okay.
Even working in Singapore, I don't think I've ever worked so hard because this is my heart and soul, right? Passion project, right? I was feeling stressed. So, okay, meditation session, help me de-stress, why not? For free. So I checked it out purely for those reasons. So I was doing that for a few months, every Tuesday night. So that's where I picked up Buddhist meditation. The seeds were planted because they taught me the very simple and effective Buddhist meditation techniques, which I still use today. And that place also has a Buddhist library. So I actually spent some days where, out of curiosity, I was reading up on some books on Buddhism. And then before I left Australia, 2011, end of 2011, I was reading the books and I thought to myself, why do they call Buddhism a religion? Just everything that I read and the Buddhist meditation techniques, it just felt very analytical and rational. Like,
they call it like a way of living, right? Rather than a strict religion itself.
That's where I realized this felt like a way of life. This felt like a philosophy. And it made a lot of sense. Cause and effect.
Are you a Buddhist now?
So I consider myself spiritual but not religious.
Okay.
So I consider Buddhism to be, amongst the religions, the one that I'm more inclined towards because of what I mentioned. It felt like a way of life. A lot of the practices, the philosophies, it made a lot of sense. And basically that gave me a glimpse of how the practices could give calm, focus, relaxation, and the philosophies of non-violence, non-attachment. It made a lot of sense towards leading a more harmonious life. So the seeds were planted back then. But because I was so caught up in music, like full-on passion, right? Like it was all going for gigs, then DJing, that this took the back seat until it resurfaced end of 2014, where this seeking came up, right? And then I went to do yoga, right? So after I did more yoga, then somehow it helped me to meditate better. So and these two are linked. So yoga, actually, when you study yoga philosophy, right, and yoga teachings, yoga is meant to prepare your body for meditation. So actually, yoga is a mainstream thing right now. I mean, yoga studios everywhere. A lot of people do yoga for different purposes, but I think the perception is that you do yoga to get into shape, sweat, get a good booty. The girls want to do it to lose weight, have a nice figure. Some people want to do it to do the handstands, the inversions. You saw a lot on Instagram photos for that. But to me, it's like yoga is a way of deepening the meditative practice. So as I traveled to India to learn more about yoga, the yogic practices helped me to deepen my meditative practice. It also helped me to firstly release a lot of tension, firstly on physical level, secondly on the mental and emotional level as well. So it started to get more connected to the self. It was the gateway into looking inside, right? So that's why I started to just become curious about who am I? Who am I within? Am I just defined by my career? Because every time you introduce yourself to someone outside,
and so what do you do?
What do you do?
Yeah.
Since start to question that, and then what gives you meaning? Who are you, right? And you question this, and then you also start to see parts of you which may have been pushed aside, or different facets of yourself, your emotional self, a lot of different emotions inside. So I started to become curious about all these parts of me. This is in tandem with when you talk about spirituality, it's a big word, but to me, it's a feeling of, I just started to feel this sense of connection to something bigger than myself. I call it a sense of oneness. So I started to feel a lot of that after doing that retreat, and after doing more yoga and meditation, right? So this feeling, this sense of oneness, feeling this, right? My lifestyle changed, and my intention and my lifestyle changed because I want to cultivate practices and a lifestyle that is in tandem with this feeling of oneness. And so I started to just cut off things which distracts me from this feeling. I guess maybe initially when I got this taste of it, right, from that retreat, perhaps maybe it was a bit extreme at first, where I thought I felt this sense of oneness, this sense of bliss, and that I was above the mundane side of life, or there's higher consciousness and there's lower consciousness, higher vibration and lower vibration. So initially, I think I was in that type of space. I think maybe you got the perception as well. So Like I just want to do high vibrational stuff. I don't want to enter a bar. I don't want to enter a
Drinking hole.
drinking hole because like it would lower my vibration. So initially, I think I was when I first discovered this space, right? I was in that, in that space, like in the a bit of you may call it extreme type of phase, right? So um, yeah, then I was I wanted to explore other modalities, find out more on this space besides yoga and meditation. I was curious about like other healing modalities because as you do more yoga meditation, I started to become more sensitive towards like energy. So in yoga, there's this term called prana, which is your internal life force. In Chinese, qi.
Mm.
People do tai chi, qigong, same concept. So I started to be more in tune with this, and then started to be more curious. Then I started to discover other modalities, other communities, people who are in the spiritual circles, people who are doing other things like, for example, Reiki, energy healing, and stuff. So,
Is that where you got exposed to the music side as well?
Yes, as well. Then, because vibrations, right? These are all vibrations, and then, I went to Bali. I went to Bali a few times. I went to Bali again to do a sound healing course, right? So, like this was 2018 already. So between 2015 to 2018, my lifestyle changed, and then like I was thinking, how do I use music in a more conscious way that is aligned with my intention and my lifestyle. So back then I was still DJing, but I started to cut off the nightlife. But I was playing a lot at a rooftop bar called Zofi.
We spun that before, the three of us.
Yeah.
I remember that one.
So that was a bit more palatable because I was playing at sunset time. So I was playing open air, and then in that avenue, I could play stuff which is a bit more
Eclectic.
Yeah, I started bringing more world music. So in addition to electronic music, the world music came in because I was traveling a lot to Bali and India, and then in my travels to India, I became very attached to the culture, the sounds, the wisdom of the yoga and the religions. I sort of have this inclination towards ethnic music. And I sort of bring that more in at a rooftop bar. So I started to play what I call conscious dance between 2015 to 2018 before I got into sound healing as well. So conscious dance meaning that instead of playing in a club, it can be any space, and the music that I play is for the purpose of like bringing people on a journey of connecting deeper with themselves as well as others. So I wanted to create a journey that people can experience the feeling of oneness, the feeling of oneness that I talked about. I wanted to spread it through music as well. So I was shaping my journeys according to my the wisdom that I picked up, my journey that I went through. So it was electronic music, but electronic music that I thought carried a deeper type of feeling. So like say tracks that have, for example, they sample mantras. So, taking it back to trance and progressive music, I need to talk about this because it is still a big part of who I am. It is a foundational piece because trance and progressive music and electronic music is very repetitive.
Yeah.
4/4, doomsh, 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 and the process of doing that actually is quite hypnotic, and the term trance. Music lovers call it a genre, but the term trance is a feeling, right? Like when you get into a state of trance,
Yeah.
right?
A state of trance.
A state of trance, right? Like it should be intuitive in that sense, right? So that feeling of in a state of trance, I think that will always stay with me forever. Because I first felt that state of trance, when I was deep in the music scene, the trance scene, the progressive scene, where I just felt this sense of, we call it very ecstatic feeling, or like just feel very connected, right? Whether to the DJ, to the self. Sometimes we're very high, but it's a feeling of euphoria or that state of, quite similar to the state of oneness that I talked about, except that back then we probably drank a lot and,
that, I guess, so-called carnal pleasure took over whatever else conscious state that we might have.
Yeah, correct. In a way, you could say it's just a different way of getting into the state, right? Like, so back then, I mean, I was drinking a lot, and then there was very strong musical impetus to get you into that state. So with that background, I started to curate more electronic music that has a deeper sense of feeling and oneness feeling. So like tracks that have 4/4 beats, but also have some type of ethnic percussion, very dreamy, luscious pads. So like, like dreamy pads that really like just soothes your senses. And then with the repetitive beats, right? As you listen, then it entrains you into, I call it a more meditative type of presence. And then with these base of beats, after you become, whether you call it hypnotized or entrained, then you can build on more elements on it, right? So that's why I like tracks that have that bass, and then slowly they can build up other type of melodies. So I always like pads, synthesizers, very dreamy, but also then I started to bring in more things like tracks that have, say, sitar, the Indian string instrument, erhu, guzheng, say the Japanese shakuhachi, all these type of instruments where I just started to feel it gives a deeper sense of connection, a feeling of peace and also connection. So I started to create journeys that bring the listener, apart from being able to, dance, I started to bring the listener towards feeling connected to something greater, right?
So like, all this is, you were still playing on electronic stuff to make all these sounds, right?
Yes.
But now you're no longer DJing a track. You are actually playing these instruments live.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So right, it's been a evolution and progression. So conscious dance purely on the decks first. I was just mixing a lot of different stuff together. Then I picked up sound healing in 2018. Like I mentioned, I went to Bali. Not intentional. I just saw there was a course, and this person, his approach to sound healing resonated because when I went out to his studio, his whole floor was filled with all types of instruments, not just singing bowls. So when you talk about sound healing, it's very associated with singing bowl. People just use, it's quite popular, whether a Tibetan singing bowl or crystal bowl. But this person had all types of instruments. So I think that caught my eye because by nature, I think I'm quite eclectic and I like to mix different stuff together.
Mm.
So, okay, I'll take his course. I took it for about 4 days. So he introduced me to a lot of different instruments that I've never played before. So singing bowls, handpan, harp, guitar. So I mean, of course, guitar was my first ever instrument that I picked up when I was way, way younger. But he showed me how any instrument can be a sound healing instrument. So even a guitar, as long as you align the music with your intention, the music can be sound healing in that sense. So I got introduced to that. There were drums, there were singing bowls, all types of string instruments.
So before going on you say sound healing, right?
Yeah.
What does the healing term here actually mean?
Yeah, good question. Good question. So this, to me, right, it's just a reference term. It's just a reference for me to classify a particular format or a particular type of instruments as sound healing. But to me, sound healing can be any music that helps a person to regulate their emotions, to calm them down, to understand themselves better. To me, that is sound healing. So you can use any sound for sound healing, but sound healing as an industry, as a sector, when people talk about sound healing, it's commonly now referred to as like sound baths. So like where you go for these sessions where you just lie down, you receive sounds, typically through like singing bowls or these instruments that give out very calming, therapeutic vibrations, right?
So sound bath and sound healing, interchangeable terms are basically. Is that what you're trying to? It is. Okay.
Interchangeable. To the common people right now is interchangeable. But to me, sound healing, it should be a broader science. It should be a broader science of how do you use music for soothing, understanding, processing. And sound healing, it can also encompass music therapy as well. So I just want to mention that because professionally, there are also music therapists. I don't know if you're...
Yeah, but that's a different. That's more like the so-called Western style, right? Music therapy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's some overlap, but
it's still quite different.
It is different, but the intent is similar. Yeah.
So, what can people expect out of like one session of sound healing?
Yeah. So, at the very least, you should feel very relaxed. Helps you de-stress. And if you are very tired, normally people will fall asleep.
Okay.
So there's absolutely no
judgment.
No judgment. Like perfectly normal. And every time, whether I've been to session as a participant or as a facilitator, normally there will be a few people who will fall asleep. You can hear them snoring.
So it doesn't matter, like, some people lie down, some people sit, that kind of thing, is it?
Normally encouraged to lie down so that you can receive the sounds more.
Right.
You can sit up as well, but just that when you lie down on the ground, your whole body can receive the sounds much more. You feel the vibrations more.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's like, is the scene here quite big currently for sound healing, let's say?
Yeah. It's grown quite a bit. It's growing. I think the last 5-6 years has grown quite a bit, and especially after the pandemic, or during the pandemic as well. Now that wellness or mental health It's now a big thing.
It's a business, right?
It is an industry. It is an industry. And now, both from a business and industry point of view, it has grown, as well as a personal need for it has grown as well. So a lot of yoga studios offer sound baths now. So at the very basic one, yoga studios offer it. Most yoga studios all around, I think if you check it out, you'll see they may have at least one session a week that is called a sound bath. So a sound bath is like what I said. Normally, this facilitator will play a set of instruments and you just receive lying down for about 1 hour. And the intent and the format is that you will get into a state where you are, if you're very tired, you fall asleep, but ideally you're in between conscious and unconscious. So,
So like falling asleep, but not quite falling asleep kind of state.
yeah, so it's like, if you want to be technical, a waking dream state, theta brainwave state or delta brainwave state, where so theta brainwave state is a deep meditative state, or the state, like I said, subconscious, where a lot of processing or you can take place, and a state where you can also glimpse certain hidden emotions, parts of yourself. So when you're in that state, not only does it promote deep rest, but it allows you to process certain emotions, stuff.
So, for you, obviously you've done your own sound healing sessions
Yeah.
before, right? Can you roughly describe the demographic of people who like attend these sessions?
All walks of life, I'll say. Of course, it's very, I would say, majority are still young adults to working adults. And it's quite popular, especially amongst the young, I don't know, you call them what, Gen Z or millennials? We are millennials, right?
Yeah, we are millennials. So
Yeah.
millennials also go.
Yeah.
So mostly Gen Z, and I guess we are the late millennials. Around
Millennials,
there.
as well as some working adults, or even people up to 50s. Basically, anyone they're burnt out. Or people, normally those who maybe they're already doing yoga, and then they want to explore what other types of modalities can help them to relax more. Yeah.
So how do you guys get your music out there? Is there like a music community where you guys gather and then play out, or like you record yourself and put it up? Like how do you, I'm sure there are a lot of sound healing people like yourself.
Yeah.
So like how do you share your music? Do you just post online, or you create your own sessions, or is there even like a jam session where a few of you guys get together and play?
Yeah. So not everyone, so like sound healing, like not everyone's a musician. I mean, I come from an electronic music background, so I can produce like sound healing tracks and I can put it up on, say, Spotify or SoundCloud. I do that, but it's not common amongst the general.
Wait, you're on Spotify?
Yeah, I'm on Spotify as well.
Okay.
Can check it out.
Post the link in the description.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah. But most facilitators who do sound baths, not all of them will put up stuff online. They may put up some clips of them doing it on Instagram, or increasingly they may put up on, there's this, increasingly there are all these apps that say like Insight Timer or Calm, where you can stream, you can just play a recording of someone guiding you through a recorded sound bath session.
Right. Okay.
So it's Insight Timer is popular. So some may put out an Insight Timer. I'm on there as well.
Okay.
But not everyone's on it. But I think more practitioners should put up their stuff on these platforms. But the thing is, not all of them are familiar with recording equipment, because it requires them to go and record and put up online.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a hassle. Speaking as someone from that background,
Yeah. We'll show everything later.
Yeah.
So let's say today I don't know you, I don't know all about this. Where can I find these? Sound healing sessions, or even the I think you guys have like the whole free movement thing. Like, where can I find these information?
Yeah. I have to say, this whole sector, it is still a bit fragmented here and there. So I think in terms of a centralized space where you can find it, we can do better on this. So firstly, the most mainstream one is ClassPass. ClassPass, are you aware?
Yeah.
So it's an app where you can subscribe to different yoga studios, right? And then through these different yoga studios, you can search for sound baths. That is the most accessible and cheapest way to start. Okay. And then after that, once you perhaps have understanding of a sound bath, you want to go deeper into it, you can join certain WhatsApp groups or reach out to certain practitioners. They're on Instagram, like myself. Then they can bring you to other studios' website where they offer classes that are not on ClassPass. These classes are held in, say, holistic studios that are not just doing yoga, but these studios, they do other modalities, other healing modalities, like energy healing or movement type of practices. More dedicated sound bath sessions, which are, they cost a bit more than the ClassPass type of class. But these sound healing sessions, they go a lot more in depth, because the ones that you find on ClassPass, because they are very mass public.
It's like an introductory.
I myself started on ClassPass offering sound bath sessions, right? Because the energy exchange for doing such classes, it's not fully worth our time to take the hassle of really bring all types of instruments for that session. So those sessions, when I first started, I just play a few Tibetan singing bowls. But then for a more dedicated, more in-depth sound bath class, I'm doing it at a more holistic studio where I use a lot more instruments and I bring a lot more other practices where I kind of fuse sounds with, say, yogic breathwork, yoga, and other, so a more integrated type of session.
So for these dedicated sessions, right?
Yeah.
Say for you, what's the average price and duration for these dedicated ones?
Yeah. So minimally 1 hour. For me, I'll do 1 hour, 15 minutes, because I want to give time for people to first feel into their body, do some stretching, some yoga stretches, and some breathing meditation first, before then lying down to receive the sounds. And because I play a wide range of sounds, so I want it to be a bit longer as well. So minimally 1 hour for these. Yeah. And what's your other part of the question?
The average price of these kind of sessions.
So average price would be between 35 to 55 for a sound bath session. But again, it varies a lot because different practitioners do it differently out there. So there are practitioners who do combine sound baths with other modalities. So say there may be people who do sound bath and say Reiki or other types of energy modalities, some of which I'm not fully familiar with. They may charge a lot more because they are bringing other types of energy work as well. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess one final message before we move into the live music performance. Let's say, what would your message be to people who are also feeling burnt out,
Yeah.
but they're kind of skeptical about the whole
Yeah.
spirituality thing? Because
Yes.
I think it's quite common, like people are there are skeptics out there.
Yes.
So like, what would you say to these people?
I'm a skeptic myself. Good question. So my advice is try out the session, like I said, whether it's ClassPass or a studio session, go for it. And then first of all, you need to feel what are the tangible benefits that you feel from the session, right? So first of all is you have suffering, you have a form of suffering, whether it's stress or burnout, anxiety, you need to treat it, right? So whether going for this session, whether it helps you or not, like first of all, you need to feel calm, ease, and relaxation at the very minimum. That's one. Secondly, you need to feel that you can trust the person. So I personally, in terms of holding a space or facilitating a session, I'm focused on well-being and wellness first. The spiritual part of it is personal to me. Like, I'm a spiritual person. I have my own spiritual practice. But in terms of the key takeaways of the sessions that I want to hold, it needs to be grounded on efficacy, some science as well. So, for example, sound healing, right? There's increasingly a lot of research and studies showing that it helps people with anxiety, helps people with stress, helps to regulate their emotions. So there's some anchor based on that. So you should be able to feel that rather than having this feeling of like being taken adrift somewhere, or having a sense of fear or doubt, or you can also question if this person is asking you to surrender to a guru or source that you're not comfortable with. So that becomes blurring the lines of wellness, sound bath with religion, new age, cults.
So essentially, the most important part is you need to be able to trust the practitioner in order to align yourself and then allow the sound healing to really work its best.
Yeah, and speaking as someone that has been through this journey, let me just bring you back to the earlier part where I talked about when I first started seeking, right? I think like between 2015 to 2018, I was exploring a lot of different modalities, and when I look back, right, there were some parts of it where I felt quite ungrounded, like a bit like it's not all love and light, right? Like I think you need to be skeptical if someone tells you that through me I can wash away all your worries, all your problems. Just trust me. Come for my programs. Surrender to me fully, and I can just make this all go away. Or whether it's me or this other person, I think you need to question that. I think there's a lot of gurus out there in this scene right now in the spiritual space where it's highly questionable. I think you need to be skeptical about it because I think there are, unfortunately, a lot of cults and a lot of scams out there. So part of my journey was recognizing that and also bringing back down to earth as well. We are still living in urban society. We're not living in mountains or temples, even though I love visiting these places. So like, you need to remember to keep your foot on the ground as you explore the well-being space or the spiritual space. No doubt, these modalities can bring a lot of relaxation and ease, but it's not a one pill, one size, everything will vanish immediately type of thing. You need to be, the session and the practitioner needs to be grounded in the sense that, first of all, we acknowledge suffering. We are all suffering, and we need to work through and be present with our unpleasant emotions and sensations. That is normally the first step. If you're not brought through this process of feeling your shit, right? I think that is called spiritual bypassing.
Okay.
So you need to be aware of that. It's a very prevalent in this space right now. So like basically it's like, question if you immediately skip the suffering straight into like, oh yeah, all good now. Like,
so that's not correct. You should go through the stage.
No, not saying not correct, because if you do that, right, you're not fixing the root of your problems.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So it's like,
so it's just like a drug where, okay, I just get this hit and then after that doesn't really solve anything.
Correct. And the problem with the drug is that you will keep needing.
Yeah.
So back then it was alcohol. Now it could be you are suppressing all your negative stuff, push it to one side and just say that, oh, everything is well. I'm above the all the negative shit. Right. And just basically run away from it.
Okay.
So that's the other extreme of some of the spiritual stuff. So I think you need to keep your foot on the ground. You need to be in touch with your sensations, your emotions, and preferably work with someone that is grounded in human.
Yes.
Being human. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, lots of words of wisdom there from Dr. Fu.
Yeah.
So I guess next is we're gonna do the live music performance, and thanks for having this interview. Let's hit straight into the music.
Okay. So these are my Tibetan singing bowls. They form the base of the sound bath session. So they are made of 7 different types of metals. So when you strike it, it gives a very pulsating sound. You hear different overtones coming out. So it's not just one note, but there's several tones emitted when you strike it. And these overtones that it produces helps to bring you into a more meditative state as you listen to them. And striking is the obvious way of playing. You can also rim it like that. See how resonant it is. Okay, and over here it's a small rain stick, so can mimic the sounds of the forest or the rain. is a frame drum, so we can create a rhythm to slowly bring people into a hypnotic state. And in Sufi music, of course, you play some basic rhythms. And popular one, this is a variation of a handpan. It's called a rav. It's like a melodious drum. And create different sounds through different melodies as well. This is a swing chime. Another very melodious instrument. I can just mention this briefly. This is a tabla. Don't use this for sound healing, but it's a Indian instrument that I've been learning. So it's more for musical exploration, right? This is again my immersion into the Indian culture. It can be quite meditative as well, but I don't really use it in my sound baths at the moment. And finally, I mentioned electronic music. This is my background. So I still weave everything through electronic music. So this is a Ableton push controller. So I use a software called Ableton where it contains different sample packs where I can play nature sounds as a backing track if I want to, for example, right? So I can use this to trigger like samples, for example, right? So with this, I activate for example, a sound of a singing bowl as a drone, and I control the volume of this, right? If I want some forest sounds, I can activate as well. And if I want to add my favorite drone synthesizers at the background, I can play them live as well. I can go higher if I want to. imagine if I'm playing live and I'm blending same notes.